World Energy Outlook 2022. Based on the energy data and market developments, the 2022 World Energy Outlook explores key questions about the crisis. Will it be a setback for clean energy transitions or a catalyst for greater action? How might government responses shape energy market? Which energy security risks lie ahead on the path to net zero emissions? The world is in the midst of the first global energy crisis because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Its shock of unprecedented breadth and complexity. Another key questions for policymakers for this Outlook 2022 is the crisis a boost or a setback for energy transitions during year 2022? With the energy market remaining extremely vulnerable, today's energy shock is a reminder of the fragility and sustainability of our current energy system. In the most affected regions, higher shares of renewables were correlated with the lower electricity prices, and more efficient homes and electrified heat have provided an important buffer for some.
Welcome, everyone, to a journey into the world of natural gas, a vital force beneath Earth's surface and a cornerstone of the Philippines' energy landscape. Starting millions of years ago, organic matter transformed into hydrocarbons, giving birth to natural gas, which found its sanctuary in reservoirs through a fascinating journey. In the Philippines, subsurface reservoirs intertwined with oil deposits are the wellspring of this precious resource, ensuring a sustainable supply. Natural gas, primarily methane, boasts a complex composition with distinctions that guide its categorization, whether conventional in reservoirs or unconventional like shale gas and coal methane. Delving into its properties, methane's colorless, odorless nature makes it a cleaner burning fuel, valued for its high energy content. Zooming into the Philippines, natural gas including the Manampaya field of Palawan propels our dynamic energy mix. As of January of 2022, the country actively pursues energy security enhancements and cleaner transitions into renewable energy. On a global scale, natural gas features prominently in electricity generation, industry, and residential heating. The surge in shale gas production, notably in the US, reshapes global reserves, sparking debates about its role as a bridge fuel. Concerns about methane leakage during extraction and transport highlight environmental considerations. To conclude this discussion, natural gas emerges not just as a resource, but as a narrative woven into our energy revolution. Navigating uncertainties and shaping a sustainable future. The International Energy Agency World Outlook 2022 paints a vivid picture of the evolving electricity landscape, highlighting both the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. Amidst the backdrop of geopolitical tensions, economic uncertainties, and the pressing need to address climate change, the report presents three distinct scenarios that explore potential pathways for the future of electricity. Exploring alternative pathways for electricity's evolution. The WEO 2022 delves into three scenarios that represent different perspectives on the future trajectory of electricity. First, stated policy scenario steps. This scenario reflects the current trajectory of government policies and plans, assuming that no significant changes are made to existing commitments. Next, announced pledges scenario. This scenario assumes that all government implements their announced pledges to reduce emissions, reflecting a more ambitious approach to climate action. Lastly, net zero emissions by 2050 scenario. This scenario represents the most ambitious pathway, assuming that global emissions reach net zero by 2050, aligning with the Paris Agreement's goal of limiting global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius, preferably to 1.5 degrees Celsius, compared to pre-industrial levels.
Pathways for the energy mix. So in 2022, energy market has a global turbulence, especially in natural gas prices. And government interventions is consumer impact. So in 2022 also, global energy demand increased by 1.3%, aligning with the recent trends. Furthermore, there are global energy transformations, including transformative changes in electric vehicles, solar energy, and heat pumps. So the chart being displayed shows fossil fuel demand and GDP growth and various historical and future milestones. So in historical trends, positive correlation between fossil fuel demand and GDP growth. Economic growth often accompanied by increased fossil fuel consumption, while in future projections includes anticipation of a shift as a clean energy gains traction and potential decoupling of GDP growth from fossil fuel demand. With that, electricity supply becomes progressively cleaner as low emissions sources increase faster than demand in each scenario. So solar photovoltaic cell is the clear frontrunner, but wind also scales up despite near-term supply chain challenges, while nuclear power, other renewables, and low emissions fuels all make progress too. So the first chart shows historical growth of coal, solar, wind, and natural gas generations, while the last three charts shows growth of coal, solar, wind, and natural gas generations through 2050 in the STEPS, APS, and NZE scenario. So that's all for the pathways for the energy mix.
For this topic, we will discuss the transition of energy to a sustainable and efficient future to have a more secure and people-centered energy industry. It is important to emphasize the effectiveness of global efforts to reduce emissions for a more secure energy in the future. As of now, global emission hasn't reached the highest point yet. The current temperature is 1.2 degrees Celsius and is expected to limit the rise of temperature to below 1.5 degrees Celsius. However, policy scenario steps predicts a temperature increase to 1.9 degrees Celsius by the year 2050 and 2.4 degrees Celsius by the year 2100, which is slightly lower than the energy outlook prediction in 2022. So as we shift to a cleaner energy, traditional risks like oil and gas trade challenges continues. This involves adjusting usage and storing power based on demands coming from different power sources. Another concern will be the supply chains for a clean energy technology and critical minerals. Displayed here are the demographics emphasizing the importance of diversification where we get these materials and global collaboration that as a whole contributes to our energy outlook. Moreover, another aspect to look into are the people, their means of access and affordability of energy. As we can see here in the presentation, with about 2.3 billion people are unable to use clean cooking. By means of this is using modern and efficient way of cooking that lessen the emissions, and 760 million people lacks electricity, which is concerning considering that in our time, electricity is now a necessity. Furthermore, as we go back to our topic, to be able to successfully transition to a people-centered energy, it is important to consider investments in trends involving renewable energy products that caters both the user demands as well as benefits our environment that will enable us to have a secure energy in the future.
Regional insights, different starting points, different pathways. This chapter focuses on the prospects for selected countries and regions over the period to 2050, considering the current policy landscape and market conditions. Together, these selected countries and regions account for nearly 90% of global energy consumption today. In this figure, we may see a graph showing the correlations of the GDP per capita, population, and end-use modern energy consumption per capita of the selected countries and regions. Africa being the lowest in modern energy consumption, we will notice its large population yet having the lowest GDP per capita. United States being the highest in modern energy consumption, with almost 200 gigajoules, having less population and yet having a growing GDP per capita. As the global energy crisis prompted a range of new initiatives, this figure shows the bar graphs of the selected countries and regions, with its source of current
energy supply such as coal, renewables, natural gas, oil, and others. With the deployment of clean energy technologies reshaping the future energy supply mix across the world, international cooperation for security, trade, and innovation will continue to remain prominent, notably in advanced economies and China that aim to increase the pace of clean energy deployment. Measures vary from region to region, but they all tend to place greater emphasis on boosting the share of renewables in electricity generation, incentivizing electric car sales, and improving energy efficiency. Today, a number of countries rely heavily on revenue from oil and gas production, and they face the prospect that these revenues will decline as clean energy transition advances. Some countries are already taking steps in that direction.
For this topic, we will discuss the outlook for electricity in our very own country. Now, let's take a look at the energy mix of the Philippines. According to the Department of Energy list of existing power plants as of August 2022, we still have the highest percentage of coal-fired with 42%, renewable energy composed of solar, hydroelectric, wind, geothermal, and biomass which compose of 29.3%, oil-based with 16.2%, and natural gas with 12.4%. In the Philippines, every Filipinos are encouraged to have time of use or otherwise called peak or off-peak rates program, which is an alternative energy pricing scheme that is based on the time of day electricity is generated and on the cost of supplying electricity during that time. Because the Philippines are heavily reliant on coal-fired power generators, which have a higher cost compared with renewable energy. On the other hand, the peak demand of the power supply outlook by 2040 with renewable energy rated at 50% in the Philippines will gradually have an increase in the exponential growth of peak demand in electricity from 21 megawatts up to 55 megawatts. We are waiting by the time the renewable energy has a greater percentage in the energy mix. The demand for electricity will become higher to sustain the needs for daily activities. Hence, by year progression, the demand for electricity will increase and new technologies for cleaner energy will inevitably arise for a brighter future.